The Red Sox look to be about to make some serious moves this offseason for the first time in a long time, and one of the things they are looking to improve on is the starting rotation. Now, it's hard to do that when you just lost a starter, but it's also good when you realize that starter is the biggest powder in baseball, Nick Pivetta, which I'll get into more why that's the case and why his attitude is just not the best for the Red Sox or really any team, but especially the Red Sox, and why it's definitely okay, they can just let him go. But what happened is he rejected the qualifying offer, and if you don't know or fully understand what that means, same here until yesterday basically. I've never put much thought into it, but I finally figured it out and I feel so proud of myself. Or at least I didn't know for a while and I just was like, okay, that's what that means. So the way this stuff works is, say Pivetta can choose to become a free agent and sign a normal contract with either the Red Sox or any of the 29 other teams, or he can accept the qualifying offer from the team he was just on, being the Red Sox in this case, but only if they choose to offer it to him. So they have an option too, just full of options on both sides. And if the Red Sox offer Pivetta a qualifying offer and he declines it, which he did, they get a draft pick when he signs with another team, which is what they'll now get when he finds his new home. I actually have an inside source on the Red Sox, so I know some stuff that goes on there, and that's not me bragging, that's just to add context to this, because something I did hear was that the team was happy that Pivetta declined the offer. My initial question though was, why offer him the offer to begin with if they were happy he ended up declining? But that was before I fully realized how this whole thing works, and what the Red Sox did was pretty smart. It was kind of ballsy, but it was smart. Because apparently there's a pretty sizable market for Pivetta. There are a number of teams that want him and feel he can be really good for them, meaning they're willing to give more money for him. So the Red Sox offering him the qualifying offer was a risk, because if he takes it, they still have him for next year. But they were banking on the fact that those other teams were going to be interested in giving him more money to make him reject the offer. Therefore, the Red Sox get a draft pick compensation, which is exactly what ended up happening. Makes sense. Red Sox general manager Craig Breslow and the front office read the market perfectly, and therefore will be getting a draft pick and lose Pivetta in the process. Both good things. So why is it so good to lose Nick Pivetta if you're the Red Sox? All these other teams see so much value in him. Aren't they losing a stud? No, I don't necessarily think Pivetta full-on sucks and that he won't be successful somewhere else. He definitely has the ability to be really good, just like he has the ability to suck. Pivetta is one of those guys who cannot get away with any mistakes. I mean, most pitchers can't most of the time because big league hitters are insane and they will hit anything that's a little mistake. But Pivetta especially, he's someone who's always teetering on the edge of being complete crap and getting crushed out there on the mound. But if his command and everything is on point, he can strike out the world. So if another team finds a way to keep him consistent and finds him worth, say, a 4-year, $60 million contract, great. It could very well work out for both parties involved, but in the case of the Red Sox and where they're at, where it seems they're ready to spend some money on the market, why keep Pivetta on some 4-year contract when you could go out and improve with a good chance of getting two of either Max Fried, Blake Snell, Corbin Burns, or Garrett Crochet in a trade? Pivetta, for the most part, seems to be at the point in his career where he is what he is and nothing too drastic is going to change. Like, he's not going to be an ace on any team. His career ERA is near 5, but his last 2 years have shown a lot of the good flashes for sure. They're probably his 2 best years, although the innings weren't too high. His ERA with the Red Sox over the 4 years there was 4.33, which isn't bad, and he was for the vast majority of the time reliable to take the ball and start games. That's a solid number 4 starter, and he's obviously turned things around a whole lot since where he started in Philly, where he was just straight up awful. He was much more effective in Boston, but also wasn't anything special overall. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that Nick Pivetta is someone who's very replaceable. And from the way I see it, he's also kind of an asshole. And I'm not the only one who sees it that way. It's really an attitude thing. And what sucks is the fact that Pivetta could be very likable. Who he is as a player seems likable. The fact that he's not the best and everyone knows it, but he has a good mentality of getting out there on that mound and being determined to get it done, even if he just got rocked. He doesn't really seem to be deterred and doesn't seem to be afraid of coming right at hitters and battling. He's kind of a badass out there a lot of the time. The way he gets all fired up and crazy after striking guys out in big moments, I mean, that's so easy to love and root for. He's like Chris Sale in that way, except for when he comes off that mound. He's an asshole. The way Sale is perfect. He's an intimidating force on the mound and looks like he has a personal vendetta with every hitter he faces, but off the mound, He's personable, he's normal, he's transparent with the media and straight up. He doesn't sugarcoat anything or point fingers at anybody. Like I said in my video about him winning the Cy Young Award, I got the pleasure of having some moments with Chris where it was literally just me, him, and a couple other players during the lockout in early 2022 when they couldn't be at the spring training facilities. And the way Sale treated me was normal. He didn't act like he was above me or anybody, just completely down to earth. He was cool. But another player who happened to be around in some of those moments, Nick Pivetta. And I can say firsthand that I didn't have a great experience around him. Now, neither I or anybody are entitled to having people talk to us, no matter who they are. But again, considering not one other player or person was the way Pivetta was, he really stuck out like a sore thumb. And the fact that he couldn't just for a second act normal or friendly just gave me a weird vibe. The vibe I got personally from being around Nick was that he was always just annoyed. He didn't really smile much. He didn't add much to any conversation or any dialogue going on. He just didn't seem happy, and for as long as he was with the Red Sox, that's kind of how he seemed. Not saying it's because he was unhappy being on the Red Sox, but more so just how he acts in general. And I didn't talk to him much, but something that stuck out specifically was when I asked him about the 2021 playoffs. When he came out of the bullpen to strike out a bunch of Rays hitters and he was all fired up, I was kind of like, what was that like or whatever? Or how did you do that? Something along the lines. And he didn't even make eye contact with me and was like, I was just out there playing baseball, man, just having fun. In that exact tone, like he was annoyed with me. He doesn't even know me. Meanwhile, Chris Sale's over here telling us who his worst favorite teammate was. It's not like Pivetta did anything crazy. There's nothing blatantly wrong that he did, but the way he acted to a random person, being me, was just odd. Again, especially when you compare it to how the other players were, just seemed very unnecessarily closed off and standoffish. And again, it's not just me. Jared Carabas, the face of Red Sox Nation and someone who's had media passes for years, so he's around the team and players a lot at Fenway, has mentioned how much of an asshole he feels Pivetta is and just closed off and standoffish. Pivetta is also very pouty, like the title says. Back in 2019, when in Philly, Pivetta, who started out in the rotation, was demoted to a bullpen role, and he didn't like it, accepting the move, but also, that's kind of what he has to do. He has no control over that decision, and when asked by the media, he said, they have their explanation, and I'm in the bullpen. That's all I have to say. And that should be all you have to say. He had a 5.74 ERA in 13 starts leading up to this decision. A 5.74 ERA, yet he feels he is valid in thinking he deserves to stay in the rotation. He disagrees with the Phillies not wanting a guy with an ERA pushing 6 in there every 5 days. Skip ahead to 2023, and the same thing happened. Through 8 starts to begin that season, he pitched to an ERA over 6. Just getting absolutely crushed out there, and as a result, the obvious move was to move Pivetta to the bullpen. And just like 2019, Pivetta was not happy about it, even more aggressively this time.
Decisions are going to be made. Do you feel like this is kind of the point where it's auditions to stay in the rotation or anything like that?
I don't really understand what you're saying, but I'm just going to continue to go out and do my job. I've started for this team for my whole entire career. I'm going to continue to do that, and by the end of the year, I'm going to continue to do that in my next year and the year on that.
And when given some more context on the situation, it made him look even worse and shows insight on just how thin-skinned that he is. Earlier that spring, like before spring training games had even started, Pivetta saw a member of the media on some MLB Network show on TV say that he could end up being the odd man out in a crowded rotation, and decided to go up and confront that reporter. His name is Sean McAdam. Here's the full context of what happened.
I was a guest on, I don't know if it's High Heat or MLB Now, on the MLB Network. And I was, at the time, there seemed to be that embarrassment of riches that we now see again as they have to make some decisions. And I was asked, who's the odd guy out here? You've got Paxton, you've got Whitlock, you've got you've got Sale, you've got Kluber, you've got Houck, you've got Pivetta. They can't have all of them. You can't have a 7-man rotation, can't even have a 6-man rotation for an extended period. And I said, honestly, I think that Pivetta is a guy that ultimately is going to be the odd man out. He's going to have to contribute out of the bullpen until such time as injuries or performance opens up the spot. I didn't malign him. I didn't say that this guy can't pitch in the big leagues. And later that day, he apparently, the whatever show it was, got repeated at noon, and he was in the back or working out and saw it and came out and sought me out in the clubhouse, tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around and he said, "You think I'm going to the bullpen, huh?" And I said, Well, yeah, I think that's a possibility once everyone's healthy and they have to make some choices. And he kind of stared at me, and I said, look, I didn't say you weren't going to be part of the staff or you were getting optioned. I just said I think there are other choices for the rotation, and that they may use you in relief. He kind of nodded, and it was sort of a like, okay, we'll see. And it was clear that even the suggestion that the Red Sox would one day or would come to such a decision clearly got under his skin.
Never ask a woman her weight, a man his salary, or Nick Pivetta about going to the bullpen. Woof! Yet it's this move that ended up saving his season and reviving it. He ended up pitching much better out of the bullpen, with the Red Sox doing this thing where he'd come into the game in like the second or third inning and pitch several innings from that point, and overall he was good. Eventually going back to the rotation to end the year where he was great. So credit to him for sucking it up and finding his success again. And 2024 had Pivetta dealing with some injuries, but it was a good example of the hit or miss element of this guy. He would have these games where he gets pummeled with 4 or 5 runs, multiple homers hit off of him, and then others where he'd strike out the world, including when he tied a Red Sox record set by Roger Clemens by striking out 8 straight hitters. So those flashes that he shows are of course what are making teams willing to give him a contract and what they see in him. But from a Red Sox standpoint, see ya. No issue having to get his money off the books to use it on other guys. Now, do I think Nick Pivetta is a straight up horrible person? No, I don't know the guy personally at all. I'm sure he's good to his friends and family, and maybe if I got to know him and how he is, I'd really like him. But from what I've seen just from afar, from a personal experience around him and with him, and hearing what others have to say who's been around him and had experiences, you don't have to be a social butterfly and talk to everybody, but the way Nick Pivetta is just kind of a sensitive asshole, and I think he's very easily replaceable from a talent standpoint. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching.